To have a humane way of life, it must start, as everything starts, in your mind with the attitudes. The quality of life is being thought of in materialistic terms, and almost more that of quantity than of quality. Quantity is a shallow assuaging of the physical body's cravings and desires. Quality does not mean how many material possessions you have. It does not mean how much food. It does not mean how much travel, how much fun, how big of a house. It means none of these. Those things apply to your exoteric life. Quality applies to your esoteric life. Everything you possess, everything you eat, everything you do, all your activities must have a special meaning to the inner part of you. If they do not, perhaps you should not possess it or eat it or engage in that activity. It's as simple as that. This would be the starting point, then, for a humane life. So to achieve a humane state and quality of life, it truly must start with the education of children, as they must be able to contact their inner being, their soul, and hold that contact steady, to hold the desire for the quality of life steady, which then will hold the activities in the exoteric journey steady. It has a snowball effect, but it must start as a small child then, because humanity, coming from this point, growing up, living in our cities, providing their families with sustenance, would know and place more value on truly every bite of food that goes into his body. There would be less of this food, but it would be of higher quality, higher energy. It would be partaken of slowly and sensuously enjoyed, every morsel, as this would satisfy the esoteric part of your being. This is what you should do instead of grabbing a bag of snack food and putting it down handful by handful, almost as fast as your hands can do it. That eases the nervousness in your physical animal body, and it eases the animal brain. Aha! I have food. I'm not going to starve, because this is a carryover from the animal kingdom from which we came. There is always that fear in animals of where the next bite is coming from, where their next meal is coming from. Animals such as dogs and cats have had the whole point of their existence taken from them, and for the most part it has not been replaced with anything else. Animals can become more aware, more trained. They can progress in evolution in this respect. Now that their occupation, if you will, has been taken from them because we feed them, they do not have to worry and occupy all their time with what they are going to eat. They could be attending schools and being trained to take a proper and fitting place in the Creator's world. Some of them do reach this point due to their owner's awareness, but most of them are ignored. There should be strict birth control for animals with super training for the ones that are born, so that the quality of animals improves, not the quantity. There are some new ideas about health care for everyone in our country. There are many good ideas out there, but politics are preventing most people from seeing the logic behind some of the plans. The best plan to date is the following one that would be for all areas of the government, not just federal, to subsidize all medical care, and not just that of those on Medicare. The following is a new 7-point plan. The government can act in the manner of an insurance company, with those still working paying a set amount for this insurance, equal for everyone. The same amount that is taken from Social Security checks for Medicare will be what each person in the country pays. There will be a set amount allowed for each service, and it will be standard across the country. If the practitioner complies with this, he will be guaranteed 75% of his charges from the government, with the patient picking up the rest. There will be bonuses given to individuals who have no illness for certain periods of time by releasing them from their obligation to pay for a period of time, even though they will still be covered. There will also be incentives for preventative medicine through exercise equipment at discounted prices for those who stay well for certain periods. There will also be substantial reimbursement for anyone who comes up with a new method of treatment or new ideas on preventative health care. The emphasis will be on self-responsibility. This will begin to take the power away from the medical profession, which is what needs to be done. Medical schools will be required to admit a standard amount of students to the medical college, a certain amount according to their overall enrollment. This will put more doctors out there, which will also help the situation. By controlling the amount of students allowed to enter medical school, they control the prices that doctors can charge. Do you see? This is one very important beginning point. At the present, the demand exceeds the supply. This must be brought into balance. There should be a system set up that is free from all political manipulating. It must bridge all political parties and be above politics. It must have the sanctity of the judicial system. The place to look for this type of individual would be in the field of research, those in the field of medical research, dedicated scientists, for the following reasons. They will be paid by the government, so will have no concerns over money. They will be ethically above being bribed or bought for money. They will be qualified to handle the money collected due to their knowledge of funding research. They will be qualified to set standard procedures and treatment prices. They will be qualified to judge new ideas. They will be qualified to give incentives for staying healthy and for practicing preventative medicine. They will be as a court of last resort or a court of appeals for doctors and patients alike. As far as mental problems, there should be a split in the mental health field as to whether it is truly mental problems or emotional problems. These two causes need to be treated differently, and a new branch of medicine will come into being that will know how to accurately test and place people either in emotional or mental health groups. Physical symptoms will be detected by new methods, such as the condition of the eyes and saliva testing, and believe it or not, problems with the navel. There is a tiny opening leading from the navel inward that opens and closes during food digestion. Many times the navel does not seal over correctly, and the infinitesimal opening to the outer world is sealed. This opening needs to be there for the correct functioning of the digestive system. This may be found to be part of the cause of obesity, which is becoming rampant. One of the many causes, we might add. When the digestive system does not work right, then the psychic-spiritual opening cannot be begun. Doctors need to think back to when a new way of sealing the navel was begun at birth and compare this to the rise in obesity. One disease that is classed as mental rather than emotional is anorexia nervosa. Even though it causes emotional behavior, the cause is purely mental. It is a chemical imbalance in the brain. Plants that evolve and grow in the same area where a certain race of people evolve and grow will naturally be more compatible, not only as a food, but also as healing agents for those bodies. This is why the diet of the pregnant female is so very important. The food, plants, etc., that she eats have developed as a combination of minerals and soil, and these minerals and soil actually make up the bodies of the babies. In other words, the digestive system of the female changes in pregnancy, similar to changes in a production line in an automobile factory to produce a new car. Her food production factory changes to produce a new form. The digestive system utilizes the original minerals and soil processed out of the plants, the vegetable and so on, that she eats, and uses this material to form the baby's body. This is where the meaning of dust to dust in the funeral service came into being. Human bodies are truly formed from soil. In the future, food production will be a large and important field for people to work in. Many new forms of vegetables will be grown due to progress in hybrids, only they will be grown inside buildings with colored lights and music where weather conditions will not affect them. The food will no longer need to have processing because the products will be growing all year around. The fruits and vegetables, that is. Whole grains will be the only source of flour. There will be no additives or preservatives allowed in anything. The Garden of Eden was an experiment to give more nourishment for the evolution of man. The time capsule thought form of the original Garden of Eden is cycling back around, and it is time for a new Garden of Eden on a higher spiral of evolution, nature's mineral garden, to once again enhance the intelligence of humanity. The quality of our drinking water is of great concern. This must be the beginning of health care for all, because water is vitally important in the makeup of a human body. The flesh is made up of 80% water, after all. When the makeup of something has that high of a percentage of one particular item, then that item must be the most important part to be started on. The rest of the body is 15% vegetable and 5% mineral composition. When this gets out of balance, this is when disease begins. Birth control for animals should be a part of all commercial pet food. Pressure must be brought to bear on the pet food companies that it is their moral obligation to include this in their products, with the exception of an expensive line that is free for those deliberately undertaking the raising of a litter. Animals in the wild have a natural birth control built into their systems that pets have had developed out of them. The natural selection process has disappeared from animals made into pets the same way it has disappeared from humans. The subliminal tapes, as they are now, are not reaching a deep enough level of the brain to overcome a hardened animal-based brain. The tapes in use now are great for those who have already expanded or stretched their mind to some extent, if only a small degree. Many have not reached this point. There is a tiny membrane in the brain that needs to be broken through, almost comparable to the membrane in a woman who has not known a man, a virgin, in other words. The tapes need to have a piercing sound inaudible to the human ear in order to break this membrane, a laser beam of sound, you might say. This high-pitched sound should be the key tone of each individual in an octave pitch that is just out of the range of hearing for humans. It should be the background of the tape at all times. This should be done when the animal-based brain waves are at their lowest activity, the true sleep state for humans. This state only lasts approximately 2 hours and is the fourth stage of the sleep cycle. A person's bed could be wired with this sound and the tape activated by a sensor when brain activity reaches a certain level. The affirmations do not need to be repeated more than a couple hundred times if the key tone is in the background, as this vibration will automatically cause the affirmations to resonate into the brain. If a faster repetition of affirmations is used, the material would go in one ear and out the other, because it would be too fast when the key tone is being used. The tapes should only be used during the lack of brainwave activity, which is a state beyond the theta states. There has been no name given this state. It lasts approximately 2 hours, as stated. The tapes should be used on prisoners because the prisoners are not fit to rejoin society without some sort of retraining being given their minds. These tapes would benefit ill people also by using subliminal tapes to combat the illness, the same way the tapes will be used to combat criminality in prisoners. Subliminal tapes could be prepared for every physical problem known to man today. They could also be applied to emotional problems and are being, but the application could be more widespread. The mental body could also benefit, as also would the spiritual. Brainwave activity will be noted as a measurement of the eyes that will give the level that is needed, not brainwave activity measurements. The measurement is called REMS. When it is registering 10 or less moves per minute is the period of time when the subliminal tapes should be used. When the movement picks up to 12 or 15, the tape should be stopped. What the scientists do not realize is that the measurement of eye movement is a detailed story of the activity of the soul, not the physical body. When the REMs pick up again, it is the re-entrance of the soul that caused this pickup. The quiet period registers the absence of the soul. Those studying sleep disturbances should be aware of this. Subliminal tapes would be extremely useful for all people because most of the earth plane evolves slowly. These tapes would be very useful. Much more could be accomplished this way. The best part of it is that within 2 generations, the subliminal tapes would not be needed, as the progress of each animal-based brain has a direct bearing on the brain of the children that are born to those who use the tapes. The biggest problem would be overcoming the fear and suspicion that tapes would evoke in many. Their reaction to this would be the same as early man's reaction to fire. Subliminal tapes could become an accepted form of therapy for all problems of humanity, but it should not be unregulated as it is now. There should be some type of guidance pattern for people to follow, with the expected results clearly stated on each tape if used as directed.